Calvary Life. This is the podcast of Calvary Baptist Church and our membership and anybody else out there in podcast land that's interested in local church life. I've got a lot of weird faces at my calling it podcast land, but why not? What do you want to call it?
No, it's good. It's all good.
By the way, I'm Charles.
Hey, I'm Paul. You know, we'd like to think that the things we talk about in local church applies to churches in general, and usually it does. Sometimes it's specific. You know, sometimes we do expanded infomercial kind of things. But also there are principles and ideas I think they're helpful for anybody. And today we're going to talk about church planting with our own church planter, Pastor Zach. So, Zach, Daniel's glad that you're here, man. Welcome.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, good deal.
Good to see
you
y'all
in the building? Did you have a hard time getting in the door or anything?
My key still works. I can still get in here. It's good to see y'all. I see y'all pretty regularly. If the Calvary people are listening, I miss y'all.
Yeah,
hope y'all are doing well.
We get to see Zach at elders meetings and things. So, all right, so Zach, you're a little more than 6 months into this now as pastor at East Avenue Baptist Church.
That?
Yeah, time flies. What kind of big lessons have you learned in 6 months? What can you tell us about church planting?
Lots of lessons. Probably the highlight that I would say is just for us, my default answer that I've been telling people, how the church is going, because that's the first question I get. How's church going? And I just answer that with it's kind of like we're in the honeymoon phase right now. Everybody's doing well. Everybody's happy. There's no drama. And we're kind of just riding the wave because we know that it won't always be that way. But really the lessons I've learned are probably just more personal, how to be a pastor, what all that entails, the weight and responsibility of that, and just dealing with people, trying to love people. And so through that, it's learned a lot. It's just a lot of personal stuff around being a pastor, I would say.
Tell us a little bit about some of the growth. People that may not know, I don't want to take it for granted that, the people are at members' meetings, may hear some of those reports or, of course, things we hear, updates in elders' meetings. Kind of give us a snapshot from over the last 6 months, what you've seen in terms of people and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll share with y'all on the podcast what I shared in the elders' meeting recently. I figured we might get a question like this. Maybe I'll start with our attendance patterns. So from the time we started in March until the summer, which I would say is the end of May, we averaged about 98 people. Some of those Sundays we'd have a little more than 100, some a little less than 80. Relatively small congregation, but it's wonderful. It's been great to see that from the get-go, that attendance pattern. And then throughout the summer, June to really first week of August, we were seeing roughly 93 as the average attendance. So
that's good. You asked me if there was typically a drop-off because, when you were here, of course, you're primarily with kids and things. But I said, July is usually kind of that's our lowest month typically. So
that's definitely that was a learning curve trying to figure out attendance patterns.
Where's everybody?
Yeah, for summer. But we saw that everywhere. You see that everywhere. People are just going on vacation and whatnot. And so in June, though, we had our first really addition to the church. We added 15 members to the church. Some of those were families that were from the community, and then some of those were people who were new to Ozark and new to being Christians. We baptized 6 people. 6 of those people, of those 15 that joined, were baptized in a church membership. So now, as a church, East Avenue sits at 44 members, and 6 of those were added by baptism. So if you look at our church and where we're sitting at, there's roughly about 70 people who are a part of East Avenue. That's families and all the kids included and such. And it's been wonderful to see the church grow in that way. Worship's going well. That's one of the things been trying to figure out. How do you do a worship? How do you put on a worship service when you're responsible for that? And how do you work with the people, the volunteers who help with that? Because Calvary's blessed to be a church that has multiple staff members and whatnot. This is a church where I'm the only staff person, so it's working with volunteers to put on worship services, not having as much high expectations and being more laxed in certain areas, but it's really going well. It's going excellent. For those who don't know, Stephen Whitfield is our music leader, and he's taken that by the horns and just really done well with that. We love working together, and we're getting ahead of the game. Sunday's always coming. That's when something my friend always told me. And
Yeah,
you want to get ahead of that
now, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
The reality
you got to
of that.
get ahead on that. And so we're establishing good rhythms, order, and pattern for the church meeting on Sunday mornings. And we're starting to hear people sing. That's one of the things I think we've looked at as a staff. How do you know how the church is doing? Or how are they singing? And the church is really singing well. We've started home groups. Home groups are basically life groups that meet inside of homes. Our church isn't super conducive to doesn't have the best space for people
particularly small groups and things
to have classes. So we've established those in homes. We've got 3 of those groups that are meeting right now, and those are going so well. Each one has roughly 10 to 20 attendees at it, and we just dissect the message or we go over a book study during those times, and those are going really well. And other than that, it's just establishing relationships in the community and getting to know people, and it's going really well.
What a question, and this, of course, we've not rehearsed what our question is going to be, Zach. So this is like firing at you.
I wouldn't expect any.
No different than that, right? But I was just thinking, what are you and Stephen and the other folks up there really thinking about, like towards outreach? Anything that's on your radar to really once again be in the community? Is there any kind of events coming up or anything that y'all have thought up, or is it trying to get your own membership just out there? What are you thinking about how you're trying to reach those who aren't coming, so to speak, or don't know anything about the church?
Yeah. So that's a big burden of mine is we don't just want to be in the community to provide another place for people to church hop or, going through the transfer portal, if you will.
Yeah.
We really want to reach lost people. And so as far as how we do that, I'm really trying to mobilize the members to see their role in that. Most people don't come to church because the reason you don't go to church is you're probably not saved, or you don't realize the importance of being a part of a church. You've never been a part of one. So trying to help people understand, you have to evangelize. We live in an area that is, and I think you guys would agree, the Bible Belt, the Deep South, we're so spiritually apathetic. We live in the most comfortable day and age we've ever lived in, and with that, we're the most comfortable not only physically but spiritually also. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of spiritual apathy. And so the ones who can get over that apathy, though, that fear, what then we've got to do, or the laziness, should say, is you got to get over the fear. And so actually this weekend we're doing a evangelism conference that we've got a guest speaker coming in, a local Gideon who's wonderful at sharing the gospel and challenges me in a lot of ways. He's coming in to teach our people. We've got 20 or so signed up for
awesome.
that. That's something we're doing. Also getting involved, like you were saying, in a lot of as many community events as we can. Just this past week, as y'all know, Pray for Dothan happened. Pray for Ozark happened. So getting around people and praying for the city, trying to get to know leaders and inviting them to church and seeing them come to church and then taking them to lunch and talking with them. Also getting involved in the association. So every county has an association of Baptist churches or whatever other denominations there are. We've gotten real involved with the Baptist Association in Dale County, so I'm getting to know a lot of the pastors there and getting involved in their events. And then Ozark, of course, has a couple major events each year. One's in the fall, one's in the spring, and we plan on being a part of those and kind of low-key just being there to mingle with the community. And we've got some shirts made up for those where just basic shirts. You walk around, hey, we're a part of this church. We'd love to. Yeah.
So are you saying for Ozark, like we say, for God, for
very similar.
Or are you for God, for Ozark and for the world?
Very similar. It's a great slogan. I like it.
Zach, I was reading this stat. Now, this is kind of a broad range, but this is from our own Southern Baptist North American Mission Board. This says that church plants have a survival rate between 68 and 86%, and that's, again, a wide range. So that means 14 to 32% of Southern Baptist church plants don't make it past 4 years. So as you guys are, in these still early stages, 6 months in, you're laying foundations, you're establishing culture and values and that sort of thing. What would you say you guys are doing right now that's sort of future-proofing you? So that you're not one of those statistics. So you're on the good side of that statistic, 68 to 86% that go beyond and continue to thrive. What would you say, and what would be helpful for anybody else thinking about church planting? What are some of those things you need to do in the beginning, things you got to get right in the beginning, or you're going to struggle in year 2, year 3, year 5? What would you say you're doing big picture, long-term foundational stuff for the church?
It all started with Calvary, I believe. And so I believe the mentality with church planting for so long was you have this larger-than-life guy who feels like he needs to be a pastor and preach and get his face and popularity up and whatnot and become this influencer. And that guy goes and plants a church. And then when that person realizes, oh, this is hard. I have to be more than a good communicator. I actually have to pastor and such. I think that's where a lot of those statistics probably seem like it's, church planting in large fail and whatnot. So I think it starts with Calvary and how we went about this church planting process. First of all, it wasn't instant. It wasn't, hey, we want to plant a church, and we did it the next day. We prayed about this, and we waited for God to open up really an opportunity for it to happen without being, too careful. You can't be too careful in this. It's like opening up a business, right? There's some risk. There's at some point you got to go. But Calvary, the way we did it, everything from the beginning, the careful, meticulous process that we had with buying the building, with figuring out the parking lot arrangement, with looking at the congregation that was there and making sure they were good, looking at the churches in the area, having conversations with them, coming up with a church planting agreement, and really just Calvary's mentality saying, hey, we want to see this through, so we're going to financially support and help out this. We're going to see you as a mission for the foreseeable future. That, to me, has been the difference maker until we're a sustainable, viable entity that exists on its own. So I think that's really in part the big difference. And then a lot of it's mentality. We didn't want to come into Ozark being the savior of the city. The savior is Christ. We just wanted to bring another healthy church into Ozark and reach the community that's really closest to there. And we also have some goals and aspirations. We want to reach the military, more military families. Ozark's one of the gateways to Fort Rucker. Ozark has another interesting fact about Ozark is it's one of the most popular places to retire. Who knew? Reaching the retired community in Ozark. And it's really it is a growing community. There's roughly 15,000 people in Ozark. So starting with that mindset, we want to be for the city. We're not there for ourselves. And Calvary really starting that and seeing us through. I think that's the big difference and why it's going to work out.
We know you guys are doing foundational things on your own too, like leadership development. You have you and Stephen, like you said, so 2 elders in place already, and I think you got a pipeline of some guys that are going to be elders there. You can probably already identify them and already investing in them, and people giving preaching, teaching opportunities. So you're setting that leadership base up from the beginning. I know you worked a long time on it sounds like it's mundane maybe for somebody listening, but it's so foundational, like those starting documents. What are we constituting as, and what are we covenanting to do together as church members? Taking membership seriously. I think about some of those things. Seriousness in membership, and people understanding that from the get-go and maintaining that culture. Plurality of elder leadership in place, a philosophy of worship and what you're trying to accomplish in worship. All those things I think are foundational things for the future. What encouragement would you give for a guy who may be thinking about church planting?
You kind of hit on it just then. Don't do it alone. Make sure you've got a church backing you for this process. Also, don't do it alone in the sense, as quickly as you can, make sure there are elders established, a plurality of elders established at the church. Someone who's, and having a plurality of elders is not just for namesake only. It's for job sake. You need someone to share the load with. And that's one of the things I'll talk specifically about myself and Stephen Whitfield. Stephen comes up to me and he says, hey, give me a third to a half of the prayer list of the congregation. List those people out and let's pray for them. If there's a need that comes up that you can't do, send that to me. Let me help you in worship planning. All of those things. You need someone to share the load with. So don't do it alone. Make sure you've got a church backing you. Key things there. And
definitely, I think I've never been a church planter, Zach, but having pastored in a small church that began small and then grew, there's if anybody thinks that it's easier because it's smaller, that's really a myth. It doesn't matter if you're preparing a sermon for 50 people or 500 people or beyond. You're still preparing sermons. It's the same amount of work. It's the same process. It's the same thing. And of course, now you probably are picking up on, you're probably learning as you go. Man, there are a lot of things. Like you mentioned, we have the benefit of having multiple staff, and we got support staff. We got people picking up all these little pieces. All those pieces are yours, figuring out what all those things are. So there are different challenges, maybe not quite as many people to care for, but more processes to be responsible for. And the primary one in your role as pastor teacher is developing those sermons. Even in that, if I have the benefit of having people who can back me up, or who can take that spot when I'm not available. So kind of the day old question is, hey, Pastor, what do you do throughout the week? Right?
Yeah. What is it that you do? And I'll use this as
what do you do when you're not at the church on Sundays?
I use this a little bit of a teaching point. To genuinely put out and authentically put out a 30 to 40 minute talk is a lot of work. I taught in high school last year, and I basically told my students, guys, I'm writing a research paper. Pastors are writing a research paper every single week, and that's hard work. You don't want someone who just gets up there and reads something that something else generated or made. You want to authentically bring to the people. You want to be more or less like Moses coming down from Mount Sinai, who's been with the Lord and giving the people what the Lord has said. And you're not glowing because of your own doing. You're glowing because you've been with the Lord. And also, Charles said this a long time ago. He probably doesn't even remember this. Like the first meeting I ever had with you, Charles, I was like, Charles, what do you do? And it was, well, I just feel like I meet people all the time. I'm just in meetings all the time. I'm a professional meter. And I've learned that being a pastor. We just meet people all the time. I've had 2 this morning before I came here. There's that. And like you said, the in and outs of ministry, visiting people. I'm taking food to people this afternoon, doing home groups, getting ready for that. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it really challenges you to develop skills in lots of areas.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are thinking that the only responsibility is, hey, you just have to get up and teach once a week. No, there's just a lot more to it. Plus, just leadership of an entire organization and a sense of responsibility for it.
Yeah, Zach, tell us how you and Hannah are doing. This is obviously new in every way when it comes to church planner, and now, the senior pastor, and your family has had to transition into that versus just, you've been on staff. It's not like you're new to staff, but just how are the Daniels doing and with this transition and everything?
I'm going to give you a deep cut here. We're doing so well. Probably the most challenging aspect of this for me has been I'm in a position now like Paul, where I'm having to preach on a weekly basis. Yeah. It's not a couple times a year. And I've found that it's harder to do my devotional time with that because any extra time I have, I want to give to the
sermon,
to the sermon or to the church. So I've really had to go back and make sure I've got that set every day, and making sure Hannah and I are devoting ourselves to the Lord, and I'm giving time to her. We're doing really well in that aspect. The Lord has, for a season of time here at Calvary, the Lord had me in children's ministry, and that was our passion. That was what we loved to do. And then eventually that passion for children's ministry never went away, but I just became less passionate about that specific area of ministry. And so for a year or two there, it was really challenging because I felt like I was in a position that was someone else needed to be in.
Yeah.
And so that was hard on us as a family. But since being in this role, it's back to this is what I'm passionate about. This is what God has called me to do. And with that, that's permeated throughout my whole family. We've got great community in Ozark with our home group and with the church, and then with our home group. Things are going really well. The kids are doing really well. My baby looked at me, my fourth born. She looked at me the other day and she said, "Daddy, I'm so happy." And we were just at church hanging out. "I'm so happy, Daddy," and I love that. And so family's doing really good, and we're so blessed and grateful to be in this position.
Yeah, we do get to see you off and on from the office kind of stuff, and then elders and those kind of things, but we don't see your family too much, obviously. And so I'm sure your kids are just growing and doing new things. And, we'll turn around just because how life is. And, at least Claire will be in high school or something. It's just amazing how kids just every day they get older and they grow.
So, Charles, when I started here, I wasn't married and I didn't have children. Now I've got a fourth grader.
Yeah.
This year. It blows my mind.
Yeah, that's only 2 years away from student stuff. You know that, right?
I know. Isn't that sad? and then I look at some of the seniors at Calvary this year. I'm like, I taught you guys in first or second grade.
Yeah.
What in the world?
Yeah, time flies in a way when you look back on it. Every day there seems to be full of stuff to do, and it keeps you busy, and sometimes you're looking forward to that next big thing, because you've been planning so hard for it. But then you turn around and look, and it's like, where did that decade go? It just goes so fast. But I'm glad to hear that your family's doing good, and we didn't have any doubts in y'all as in transition to being a pastor and having the support you have from your wife and from your family. So just excited that how things go. I'll give a shout out. I was talking to Judy Gay yesterday, and she listens to our podcast. So she's our fourth listener we've heard of.
Judy.
And so she was just asking about how y'all were doing and how things were in Ozark. And I was just giving a glowing report because it has been, I don't know any way we could say, I'm sure it could be better, but from our standpoint of looking at it, hoping how this would work, I don't know if it could have been any better for us is what we see. I mean, I'm just really proud of how you and the church have, done what you said. It's been committed to it, stable, just trying to do things right and not be in a hurry. And I think that you're seeing the fruit of that from 6 months of being there, which is crazy in itself. So it's a great thing to have y'all in Ozark like that and growing in that way. Is there things in the building that you're working towards? I know that was a huge thing for us when we started this process. Was a building that was obviously it's a church building that was old, like most church buildings like that, and we've done some work. But what's the next big projects that you're looking at in Ozark? Anything?
Yeah, the building is such a blessing. It really is in good shape. Big thing right now is we're working on our AV system, audio-visual system. It's been a little bit of the gremlins have come out on Sundays. We'll say that. Calvary knows a little bit about that on Sunday mornings. It just happens everywhere. So we're working on that. Outside of that, doing a few room modifications for getting ready to hopefully do some equipping classes like Calvary does on Sunday mornings or Sunday evenings, whenever we decide to do those on. So just those little things. That's really it that we have for the building.
It's worked
we
out.
handled most of that coming into it.
Yeah, it's been a great blessing to see how God put all those things together. What have you have you noticed or seen how Ozark now uses the park next door? I mean, what's the use of that now that you're there and seeing it?
Yeah. So I see some dogs over there every morning hanging out in the park. So that park is used for lots of recreational activities. There will be bounce houses, inflatables set up over there for whatever organization, birthday parties. There's weddings over there. I remember distinctly one day we were over there. We were at the church doing work, and we had a hammer going, a hammer drill going, and there's a wedding happening right over there. We didn't even realize that. They came and knocked on the door and were asking us to maybe not do that for 5 minutes so they could
have the ceremony.
Have the ceremony. So the park's being used in that way, and I like to go over there and just walk and hang out over there. It's really pretty.
Yeah, it's a pretty place. I'm glad the city's using it because it's a nice little. It's big trees and lots of lots of shade, and just a beautiful little area they've made in the city.
Once a month, I failed to mention this, once a month we do a fellowship as a church, and we have lunch together, and we just hang out, and we actually encourage students and kids, hey, let's go over to the park and hang out, throw the football, frisbee, whatever we can do to have a little bit of fun and activity for them.
Yeah, awesome. Well, good. Well, anything else you want to tell the membership of Calvary before we wrap this one up?
I hope you know, to the people of Calvary, just how wonderful Calvary is as a church and how giving the church is. We, outside of the Lord orchestrating and doing all these things, Calvary has been the drivetrain for this church plant. So we're just so thankful. From my time here for 10 years, how I grew here, all that I attribute to Calvary, not only its leadership, but the people here. And so just so thankful to Calvary. And miss y'all every day.
Well, we miss you as well. And but I think you left the children's ministry in good hands.
Oh, it's
Josh is doing an awesome job. Josh and Stephanie, and very thankful
like I said
for them,
earlier,
so.
Now it's in the reins of someone who that's their passion and that's their love, and they're doing awesome with that.
Yep. Yeah, and we got a new Zach. That's
you
right.
Believe that? You got rid of one Zach, or you lost one Zach. Had to replace.
That's right. We got to have a Zach on staff, and none of y'all know how to spell your name, so who knows what form you're going to use in that? But that's okay. But man, good to see you. Glad you came, and thanks for being a part of our podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here and a part of it today.
All right. Remember, we are for God, for Dothan, and for Ozark and the world.